After watching today's episode, you will know how to use a measuring tape like a professional. Even if you've never learned or used a measuring tape before, in today's video, I will show you everything you need to know so you can master how to use a measuring tape in a single video. I've been using the measuring tape for 7 years now, and one thing I can say about it is easy to learn the basics, the 1, 2, 3 boldly written numbers. This one that you see right here, this boldly written, it's easy to learn what it is, but the lines and strokes in between those digits are a little bit complicated. It's not a common knowledge, and I have seen people that spend 3 to 6 months to master those, and some people just never did. Though I learned it the hard way too, but in this video I will simplify it for you so you can easily master it. But before we jump right into it, my name is Basit. I'm the CEO and founder of Classics Furniture and Accessories. I started this series, Build the Basit, where I teach you how to build some of the great furniture you see out there. So if you're just tuning in for the first time, or you've been here before but you never subscribed, this is your chance to tap that subscribe button so you can be notified when we drop another good episode like this. And I will assume you've done that. Now let's get into it. I'll assume you already know what a measuring tape is. A measuring tape is a tool or equipment that you use to measure. Now, what is measuring? Measuring is taking the gap between 2 points. Here are some common use cases as a furniture maker. You use measuring tape to measure the size of your project. Say we are building a kitchen cabinet. You use a measuring tape to determine the size of the cabinet you are building for the space available. It's also used to measure the size of boards or wood before cutting them into pieces, or even during the process of cutting, and much more uses. You will get conversant with it as you continue your journey as a furniture maker. So let's discuss the basic first. You see the boldly written digits, the 1, 2, 3, 4 that you see right here, the one on top are the inches column, and you see this one below are for meter. So I suggest to have a measuring tape with you, so you can easily check as I'm teaching you right here. So I'm going to teach you these inches because that is what I use, and that is what I believe to be the standard unit for measuring as a furniture maker, the inches on top. But it's easy to convert it to the meters below, or even centimeter. You just type onto your Google, just type convert. Let's say you have 5 inches and you want to convert it to centimeter. Just say convert 5 inches to centimeter. You can easily get the answer there. For this tutorial, we'll be using and focusing on the inches alone. So the basics, we have 1, 2, 3. Those are the basics. They are boldly written digits. You can easily know what it means. Once you see the digits, you already know what it means. It means 1 inches, 2, 3. That is what it means. So they are easy to know, but the strokes you see in between, they are the complicated ones. So that is what we need to get deep into today. To make it super easy and clean for you, I'm using a worksheet, and I also have my measuring tape with me, so you can easily see what I'm doing. Any measuring tape start from 0, right? The 0 is at the edge. Then we move to 1, then we move to 2, then we move to 3, just like the normal numerical values, right? So we just assume that we have this to be 0.0 here, and this to be the first digit is 1, right? So the longest stroke that hits the column of the lines below, right? You know, I told you we have the inches column on top and the meter column below. So for the longest stroke that hits the column of the meter below, that is our point for all numbers. I want you to reverse that and listen carefully. The stroke that hits the column below, the meter column, the strokes that hit it from the inches right here, the stroke that hits that column line is our whole number space, right? It's our whole number point. So we have 0 starting the measuring tape, then we have 1, which is the longest that hits the column here, and we have 2, which is the longest that hits the column here, and we have 3, and that is how it's all go. and that is how it is. Now let me use the book so you can clearly see what I'm saying. So we have 0 to be our starting point. Then we have the first digit that hits the stroke of the colon down here, which is the first digit. And so for every mathematical value, you know we can split it into more values. So if you have 1 to be a whole number, we can split 1 into 4 places easily. We have 1, we have the quarter, we have the half, we have the 3/4, and we have the whole number 1, right? So let's say we're starting the number from 0. So after 0 we have quarter, after quarter we have half, and after half we have 3/4, and after 3/4 we have 1 inches. So the decimal values are 0. After 0 is 0.25. After that we have 0.5, which is for half, and after 0.5, which is half, we have 0.75, which is 3/4. Then we have 1 as our own number. The same is true with tape, with measuring tape. So we have 1, we have 0, then we have 1, we have 1, we have 2. In between those ones, we have 4 places, right? We have quarter, we have half, and we have 3/4. In between those whole numbers. So for clearer stroke, let's use the number 6 to 7 because they have the lesser strokes than these ones. You see, they have more strokes than 6 and 7. Now after 6, let's assume our 6 here is 0, right? And we have 7. Let's say our 7 2 is 1. So the point 0 here to point 1 here, we can split it into 4, right? We have quarter, we have half, and we have 3/4. So how do you know what the half stroke is? The half stroke is the second longer line, right? It's the second longest stroke after the stroke for the whole numbers. So this is the stroke for the whole numbers, this is the stroke for the whole number. So in between them, they must have half, right? So the half will be the second longer stroke, which is this. So if you have your tape I want you to look at it from yours. The second longer stroke is the half. In between any 2 points, right, we have the half. Then we have what again? We have quarter. Remember what I said earlier? We have 0.25, which is the quarter. So the quarter is the third longer line or longest stroke, the third, right? If you look at the measuring tape, if you look at yours, we have this to be the third and this part to be the third. So if you're starting from your left hand side, counting it down, you must hit half, then you have your own number. But before you hit your half, you must have your quarter, which is what we have here, 0.25. So which is quarter, 1/4, if that's fraction, for fraction, right? So we have 6 whole number, then we have quarter, which is 1/4, then we have our half, which is 1/2, then we have our 3/4, which is 3/4. Are you with me? Okay, so your whole number, it is the first point, then you have 4 places before the 4 places in between the whole numbers, right? So we have 6 to 7, we have quarter, we have half, and we have 3/4. That is what you see here. So the first longest stroke that hits the colon for the meter is the point for all numbers, right? That is where you see your 1, 2, 3, and then in between any 2 strokes, we must have the half, the quarter, and the 3/4. So the second longer line in between those 2 points, let's say we pick the 6 and 7, right? And let's assume it's just 0 and 1. So in between those lines, we have a quarter, which is the third longer line. We have our half, which is the second longer line, and we have our 3/4, which is also the same line, the same size with the quarter, but in different places. The one you see first, starting from your left hand side, the one you meet is the quarter, which is the 1/4. Before you have your half, then you have your 3/4, which is the one after the half inches. Are you with me? So the way we call these things is when you see any point from 0 to 1, or let's say let's assume this is 6 and this is 1. From 0 to 1, that is 1 inches. Right, so let's start from where the tape measure begin, where the measurement tape begin rather. So we have the 0, then we have the 1, that is 1 inches. We have the 1 to 2, that is 2 inches. We have to 2 to 3, that is 3 inches. Are you with me? So that is how you call it. So 9 to 10 is what? 10 inches, right? 6 to 7 is 7 inches. So if you started from here and whatever you want to measure now, let's say I want to measure this book. So from here to this point, we have it to be 8 inches. Are you with me? 8 inches. So let me continue. Now, if you know anything about numbers, you know they can be split into more values, right? Even before quarter, we have numbers. Before half, we have more numbers. Before quarter, we have more numbers. But as a whole number, we split a whole number into 4, right? Whole number into 4. We have the quarter, the half, and the 3/4. That is easy. That is the basics, right? So now let's get even deeper. So before your quarter, you see there are strokes in between, right? There are strokes in between, but the first is the whole number, the second is for the half, and the third longer line is for the 3/4. Now, the fourth longer line in between the first longest line and the third longer line, we have whole number and we have quarter, right? So in between those two, we must have another one that is long, but not as long as the quarter line. This is it right here. If you have a table which you can check it. The fourth longer line in between those points from point 6 to point 7, the fourth longer line after the line of the whole number, after the line of the half, and after the line of the quarter and the 3/4, we have another one which is longer, but not as long as those ones. And that is what we have. And so the name we call it from our first 0 and whole number to the second point, which is let's use the workbook to make it even easy to understand. So let's say this is our first stroke, the longest. This is our second stroke, the longest. Then we have our half, which is not as long as the 2, but it's the second longer. It is the half. Then we have our quarter, which is as long as our 3/4, but both of it is not as long as well as this. Now we have quarter here, we have our half here, we have our 3/4 here, we have our whole number here, our whole number here. Are you with me? Sorry, 1/8, which is 1/8. That's what we call it, 1/8. Instead of 1/8, just 1/8. Right? So after we have our quarter line, after our quarter line, we have another line which is as long as this 1/8 line, but it is not in the same place. It is after the quarter. We have another one. So this is what we call 3/8. 38. What I call it, 38. So after that one, we have another one which is after the half inches. It is as long as these ones, but not longer than this. It's not even up to this, because this is longer than this. So this after half inch is 5/8. And there's another one after 3/4, right? So that one is another line after 3/4, which is what we call the 7/8. So let me recap. The first one we have in between the first line that hits the colon of meter to the quarter stroke is 1/8. We call it 1/8. What I call it, 1/8. We have another one which is after the quarter, immediately after quarter. We have another which is the line or the stroke in between this quarter and this half inches, right? That thickness, that gap. We have another one in between them. That is what we call 38. Then we have another one immediately after the half inches, which is the gap between our half inches and what? Our 3/4. Right? Are you still with me? So that is where we have our 5/8. 5/8. Then we have another one immediately after 3/4, which is the gap between 3/4 and what? Our another whole number, which is where we have 7/8. Now let me recap. The first longest line is what it is called, what? The whole number lines, right? The whole number strokes. The second longest line is called the half stroke. This is it right here. Then we have the third longer line, that is 2, right? We have it for quarter and for 3/4 as well. Then we have 4 strokes that are in between those first 4, but they have the same size, different names. We have one in between 0, which is the first value, to quarter, which is called 1/8. We have another one after quarter, which is called 3/8. We have another one after half inch, which is 5/8. We have another one after 3/4, which is 7/8 before the whole number. So let's look at this from a measuring type. So we're still using our 6 to 7 point of reference, but we assume they are 0 and 1, right? So we have these to be 0. This is the longest. This is the longest, right? In between we have the half. In between this we have quarter and 3/4. But in between the first one and the first quarter, we have what? We have our longer line, which is what I called 1/8. Remember, after the quarter, in between the quarter and half, we have another which is called 3/8. It is as long as this. Are you with me? Long as this. So after the half inch, we have another one in between half and 3/4. That is where we have 5/8. Are you with me? 5/8. The line that is longer after the line between a half inch and 3/4. So it is the fourth longer line in between those whole numbers, right? Then we have 3/4 to whole number. We have another which is the longer, which is the 7/8. Another point to let you know is that it is in the inches column that we have the feet. So feet is equivalent to 12. So when you hear people say, how many feet is that? If they say it is 1 feet, it means that is 12, right? 1 times 12. If they say it is 2 feet, that is 2 times 12, which is 24 inches. Equivalent to inches, right? But it is 24 feet. It is 2 feet rather. They call it 2 feet, equivalent to 12 inches. Are you with me? So the first 1/8 that you see right here is 1 feet. It is 12 inches. That is the equivalent. 12 inches is what? 1 feet. Then you have the 24 inches, 23, 24, which represent what? 2F. And 2F is what? 2 feet. So I will just take that as something you already know. So let's go back to what we're doing. So you see, with this, you clearly see we have quarter, we have 3/4, then we have some values in between whole number and quarter, in between quarter and half, in between half and 3/4, and in between 3/4 and the second whole number, right? So let's say that is clear. Now let's go back to the worksheet. So even in between those 1/8, 3/8, we still have value. That is how deep this thing can go. That is why most people spend 3, 4, 6 months mastering these strokes in between the two whole numbers. But for you, it will be easy. And if you are with me so far, you already know it's more simple than most people thought. So we have a line in between the first 1/8 and our first whole number. This is the line. After that, we have another line in between those ones. Same sizes, right? Same size. In between those two values, just evaluate. We have the 1/8. We have a value in between 1/8 and our whole number. After that, we have another value in between our 1/8 and quarter. It is not long as the 1/8 line, so we can call it the shorter one, right? So the shorter one, this one that you see here, you see this is our 1/8, right? It is the fourth longer line. 4/1/8, fourth longer line. 1/8, 3/8, 5/8, 7/8. Those fours are it's 4. Those 4 are the fourth longer line. But we have one that is even shorter than those, which is the fifth, which is here, right here, in between those 1/8. So we have one right here. We have one after 1/8 before quarter. We have one after quarter before 3/8. We have one after 3/8 before half inch. We have another one after half inch before 5/8. We have another one after 5/8 before 3/4. We have another one after 3/4 before 7/8. We have another one after 7/8. In between 7/8 and the whole number. Quarter, 5/8. No. Now let's look at it from a real measuring type using our 6 and 7 figure I've been using. We have the 6 and the 7. 6 representing what? 0, and this representing 1. In between 6 and 7, we have the half. In between half and even number, we have quarter. So we have quarter, half, 3/4, then whole number. Are you with me? But before quarter, we have a value, which is 1/8. After quarter, we have another one, which is 3/8. Then we have half. After half, we have 5/8. After 5, we have 3/4. After 3/4, we have 7/8. Then we have the whole number. And even in between those ones, we have 16s. So we have 16 between 1/8. Right? In between the whole number and 1/8, we have 16. It is shorter. Look at the table we are with the table. We have it is shorter, so we call it 1/16. So 16, 1/8. This is 16 again. Quarter. 16, 3/8, 16, half inch. 16, 5/8, 16, 3/4. 16, 7/8, 16, whole number. Is that clear? Okay. So now that we've covered the numbers, if you look at the lines before, now that we've covered the numbers, if you look at these lines, this range from 1 to 5 or 1 to 6 from my own table, yours might be 1 to 5. You see, they have even more lines than these ones. Well, the one that you use is just the one I've just told you, the 1/8/16. That is the max here. So the numbers you see right here is nothing to worry about. It's not your concern. So just look at the first longer, the second longer, the third, the fourth, and the fifth. So you're using what? 5 strokes. From those lines, you're just using 5 strokes. That is what it is. 5 strokes. First is the longer, which is for the whole number. The second longer is for half. The third longer is for quarter and 3/4. The fourth is for 1/8, 3/8, 5/8, 7/8. And then you have the even shorter one, which is the fifth, which are the 16s. So it's remain how to pronounce them. Are you with me? So now let's say you measure this book, which I have done before. From this point to this point, that is 8 inches, isn't it? So we have 8 inches. So that's what we call it. You say 8 inches. Now let's say what we measured was somewhere around 8 and a figure here, which is, can you see it clearly? So it is 8 and quarter. You won't say 8 and 1/4. 8 and quarter. Are you with me? So let's say what we measure is 8 and then half. Instead of quarter, it is half. You say 8 and half. What do I call it? 8 and half. So now let's say it is 3/4. So you have 8 and 3/4. 8 and 3/4. That's what you call it. So let's say it is not those very digits. Let's say it is even smaller ones, right? So what we have here is 8/1/8. What do I call it? 8/1/8. What you have here is 8 and quarter. Then you have 8/3/8. Then you have 8 and half. Then you have 8/5/8. Then you have 8/3/4. Then you have 8/7/8. Then you have the whole number, which is 9. So the way you call it is 8/1/8, 8/3/8, 8/5/8, 8/7/8 before 9. Are you with me? And you see you have smaller, which is what we call 16. So now let's say you have 16. That's what you say. 6/16. You have 6/1/8. Then we have 6/1/8/16. What I call it? 6/1/8/16. Then you have 6 and quarter. Then you can 6 and quarter. Then we have 6 and quarter 16. Are you with me? 6 and quarter 16. You see that is a little bit mouthful, but you get used to it. Then you have another which is 3/8, which is immediately after the quarter 16, 3/8. You have another one after 3/8, which is what we call the 3/8/16. 3/8/16, that is half before half. So then you have 6 and half. You have 6 and half, you have 6 and half 16, the stroke after half. you have 6 and 5/8 stroke after 6 and a half 16. Then you have another one which is stroke after 5/8, which is 6 5/8 16. 6 5/8 16. Are you with me? 6 5/8 16 or 6 and 5/8 16. Then you have 6 and 3/4. Then you have 6 and 3/4 16. Then you have 6 and 7/8. Then you have 6 and 7/8 16. Then you have 8. Then you have 7 rather. Sorry. So is that clear? So we have the 1 inches 0 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In between those ones, you can say we have. Let's see what you measure is this. That is like 5 and 3/4. So you can just play around with it. Just hold your tape rule, measure anything. So we also call measuring tape a tape rule. So I have a marker here. So let me just measure what the size is. So what do you say? We have 4.5. So if you did not get it at first, you can watch the video like 2 or 3 times to get a better grasp of it. And that is the end of today's topic. Can you see that clearly? So we have one in between the whole number and the 1/8, another one after 1/8, another one after quarter. So they are in between 2 numbers, right? So we call them 16. Now let's look at it from a real measuring type using our 6 and 7 figure that I've been using. We have the 6 and the 7. 6 representing what? 0, and this representing 1. In between 6 and 7, we have the half. In between half and whole number, we have quarter. So we have quarter, half, 3/4, then whole number. Are you with me? But before quarter, we have a value, which is 1/8. After quarter, we have another one, which is 3/8. Then we have half. After half, we have 5/8. After 5, we have 3/4. After 3/4, we have 7/8. Then we have the whole number. And even in between those ones, we have 16s. So we have 16 between 1/8. Right? In between the whole number and 1/8, we have 16. It is shorter. Look at the tape we have with the tape rule. We have it is shorter, so we call it 1/16. So 16, 1/8. This is 16 again. Quarter. 16, 3/8, 16, half inch. 16, 5/8, 16, 3/4. 16, 7/8, 16, whole number. Is that clear? Now that we've covered the numbers, if you look at these lines, this range from 1 to 5 or 1 to 6 from my own tape rule, yours might be 1 to 5. You see, they have even more lines than these ones. But the one that you use is just the one I've just told you, the 1/8, 16. That is the max here. So the numbers you see right here, it's not your concern. So just look at the first longer, the second longer, the third, the fourth, and the fifth. So you're using what? 5 strokes. From those lines, you're just using 5 strokes. That is what it is. 5 strokes. First is the longer, which is for the whole number. The second longer is for half. The third longer is for quarter and 3/4. The fourth is for 1/8, 3/8, 5/8, 7/8. And then you have the even shorter one, which is the fifth, which are the 16s. So it's remain how to pronounce them. Are you with me? So now let's say you measure this book, which I have done before. From this point to this point, that is 8 inches, isn't it? So we have 8 inches. So that's what we call it. You say 8 inches. Now let's say what we measured was somewhere around 8, and the figure here, which is, can you see it clearly? So it is 8 and quarter. You won't say 8 and 1/4. 8 and quarter. Are you with me? So let's say what we measure is 8 and then half. Instead of quarter, it is half. You say 8 and half. What do I call it? 8 and half. So now let's say it is 3/4. So you have 8 and 3/4. 8 and 3/4. That's what you call it. So let's say it is not those 3 digits. Let's say it is even smaller ones, right? So what we have here is 818. What do I call it? 818. what you have here is 8 and quarter, then you have 8 3/8, then you have 8 and half, then you have 8 5/8, then you have 8 3/4, then you have 8 7/8, then you have the whole number, which is 9. So the way you call it is 8 1/8, 8 3/8, 8 5/8, 8 7/8 before 9. Are you with me? And you see you have smaller, which is what we call 16. So now let's say you have 6 16. That's what you say. 6 16. You have 6 1/8. Then we have 6 1/8 16. What I call it? 6 1/8 16. Then you have 6 and quarter. Then you can 6 and quarter. Then we have 6 and quarter 16. Are you with me? 6 and quarter 16. You see that is a little bit mouthful, but you get used to it. Then you have another which is 38, which is immediately after the quarter 16 3/8. Then you have another one after 3/8, which is what we call the 3/8 16. 3/8 16, that is half before half. So then you have 6 and half. You have 6 and half, you have 6 and half 16, the stroke after half. You have 6 and 5/8, the stroke after 6 and half 16. Then you have another one which is stroke after 5/8, which is 6 5/8 16. 6 5/8 16. Are you with me? 6 5/8 16 or 6 and 5/8 16. Then you have 6 and 3/4, then you have 6 and 3/4 16, then you have 6 and 7/8, then you have 6 and 7/8 16, then you have 8. Then you have 7 rather, sorry. So is that clear? So we have the 1 inch is 0 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In between those ones, you can say we have, let's say what you measure is this. That is like 5 and 3/4. So you can just play around with it. Just hold your tape rule, measure anything. So we also call measuring tape a tape rule. So I have a marker here. So let me just measure what the size is. So what do you say? We have 4 and half. So if you did not get it at first, you can watch the video like 2 or 3 times to get a better grasp of it. And that is the end of today's topic. I hope you learn a ton and you find this video valuable. If you do, you might know a friend that needs something like this. Why not share, like, and subscribe if you haven't?